Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beastyqt and the Strelbora versus 3D. This set has started about an hour ago, but we are catching up from recorded games. So the first couple of games, well, depending on how fast it takes for us to catch up, will be recorded games, but it makes some sense for us to watch the entire set and not just jump into the second, third game live. So yes, the set is going to be ahead of us, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you will just be watching this as if this was a recorded game cast, and if you're watching on Twitch, just so you know, we are behind, we are aware of that, but we're intentionally not jumping into game number 2 or 3, simply because we want to see the entire set unfold. So, Beastyqt and the Strelbora, a very long team name that doesn't even fit into our scoreboard, so they will just be abbreviated by Strelbora. It is a name that comes from the fact that Beasty is playing with two British players. We will have, down south, the Muslim playing as the Yellow Rus. Up north, we're going to have Beastyqt playing as the Red in Mongols, and in the pocket, we will have the French playing for Recon in blue. On the other side, it is going to be 3D with Garnath playing as the purple Mongols. Down south, it is going to be B playing as the teal Chinese. And last but not least, it is going to be Rus pocket in green. So Rus, Mongols, and Chinese versus Rus, Mongols, but French. This is going to be an interesting topic to talk about for multiple reasons. First of all, it is going to be all the hunt across the map shared between the two Rus players, but the big question is going to be how much the Chinese can accomplish on what is a very, very open map. Personally, I feel like saving up Chinese for a slower placed map like Danube River or the Hill and Dale makes a little more sense. We also have a slight deviation when it comes to the positioning of the Rus players. You have a flank Rus for the Muslim and a pocket Rus for Sub-Zero. You're still probably expecting fast castles from both players going for horse archers, but Sub-Zero is going to have a little more safety here in the pocket. As things stand, Sub-Zero is at 290 bounty already. The Muslim is sitting at 215, so the Muslim has a slight deficit when it comes to bounty, but there is so much hunt out here that he's probably going to be able to make up for it right now. Here comes the School of Cavalry from Recon as he is age up building. Looking at Beastyqt, he is playing a fairly passive Dark Age, nothing crazy from the Mongols. Sometimes you see Spearman rushes, Scout rushes, but Beasty is just playing standard fast Feudal over here for now. Down south, B is going to be playing with the Chinese. He's going to supervise his mill on the berries, also has the sheep nearby. And in the middle, you do have Sub-Zero, for now, playing the standard Rus stuff, not dropping the Golden Gate just yet. And on the north, Garnath, he does have one pasture right next to the Ovu, but once again, he's not playing super aggressive, so neither of the Mongols are going super crazy right now. Down south, you're going to have the Muslim finding one wolf that's going to push him to 275 bounty, whereas for Sub-Zero, you're going to have 395 bounty already, so Sub-Zero has a way better start at this point. He's taking down quite a lot of patches of deer. You still have some unclaimed deer all across the map, so I don't think that the Muslim has to be worried, but it definitely is a better start at this point for Sub-Zero. Looks like the two cons will exchange some shots up north as we have Beasty coming in with the Deer Stones. Deer Stones is likely going to be a landmark as well for Garnath, and indeed that is the case. We will have the Barbican of the Sun coming in for 3DB. He needs to have this Barbican of the Sun up because otherwise his gold mine is going to be way too exposed at this point. Meanwhile, on the right side, we have the Muslim finishing up with the Golden Gate. He's a tiny bit ahead compared to his opponent Sub-Zero, but I don't think that you have to attribute that much to that. It's a slightly different build order that they're using most likely. It's going to result in a slightly faster professional scouts being acquired though, so there is a slight positivity about that faster feudal age, I would say, for the Muslim. What isn't really great is that at this point, Sub-Zero is going to be at 470 bounty after killing that wolf, whereas for the Muslim, he's sitting at 380. So much better bounty for Sub-Zero, and that's going to help quite a bit when it comes to pulling off that fast castle, potentially even reaching that tier 3 bounty. Scouts from B trying to burn down this mill over here. You see, Recon tried to mill his huntables. He's not going for professional scouts, but when you have Rus players on the battlefield, you don't really want to mill your huntables simply because the Rus player can just swoop in and steal all your hunt. So, not exactly sure if this is a good idea for Recon. He's got a knight to protect his hunt for the time being, so it's gonna be fine. But obviously, he wants to make sure that his opponent can just run in and steal all those carcasses. Professional scouts on the way as well for Sub-Zero. The Muslim at 415 bounty, Sub-Zero at 555. So Sub-Zero is unlocking that tier 3, and that's going to be a massive advantage over the other Rus player because that extra gold trickle from the hunting cabins and the extra food gathering rate is definitely going to help here for Sub-Zero carve out a lead over the other Rus player. Meanwhile, up north, still minimal aggression from Beasty, but he has 2 archer ranges working now, and he's going Mangudai. Ooh. Not something that you see every day with the Mongols. Sometimes you have archers, sometimes you see some horsemen. Mangudai are quite expensive, and they would die to, let's say, mass longbowmen. But in this matchup, I think it makes a lot of sense. You have a lot of mobility with them, and it's not like you're encountering English. The main reason why you usually don't go for Mangudai is because they're very expensive and the English longbow spam just counters them so well. But in this matchup where there is just a limited amount of foot archers, the Mangudai could work so effectively, and that's exactly what we're going to see from Beasty. Having the Mangudai on the battlefield will also help control these carcasses, so Sub-Zero might have a tough time picking up carcasses with all those Mangudai running around, because the Mangudai can just keep pursuing the scouts and keep shooting at them, so Sub-Zero might have a hard time gathering the carcasses, and you see, this is the game plan here. Sub-Zero is grabbing the carcasses and he's dropping them off at B's base, so B is gonna have the supervised mill, and he's going to take the deer carcasses that way. For now, a couple of knights out for Recon, and those will be supporting Beasty's Mangudai. I really like this unit composition so far from the Muslims team, and behind this one, Sub-Zero is aging up to Castle Age, so is the Muslim. The Muslim is going to have a head start in that regard. He's building that landmark with 9, whereas as you see, Sub-Zero is only building it with 5, so the Muslim, probably like a 30 seconds Castle Age advantage, and that can translate into 1 extra Warrior Monk, allowing you to pick up relics. Relic spawns are fairly even. Most of those are located to the north, so there is going to be quite a lot of distance for the Muslims' Warrior Monks to travel to pick up those relics. Moving up to the north is going to be Beasty, and it looks like the answer from Garnot is going to be Mangudai as well. Down south, still more carcasses being ferried in. That's a ton of food economy for B, and we haven't talked about that. Quite a decent amount of eco for him. Looks like he's getting a couple of horsemen out, supervising that stable as well. As now, we're going to have a decent amount of horsemen out here, actually. I haven't really seen him popping those horsemen out up until now, but he has a fairly sizable force, and so far he's using the flexibility of the Chinese with those supervisors very nicely. He's able to supervise that stable and catch up on army production quite fast. This is one of the most appealing ways of Chinese being played on open maps, and B is doing an exceptional job with that. Chinese is not something that you often associate with open maps because you want to see them booming, but they are a pretty decent horseman civilization in Feudal Age because they can mass quite a lot quite easily. Mangudai now crawling closer and closer to the base of Garnet. Garnet's forces are a little bit out of position here. They don't really want to take a fight against all those knights and all the Mangudai, so you gotta be careful if you are purple. And it looks like those purple Mangudai are getting sandwiched in between multiple forces, and here's the problem that you're facing if you are Garnet. Your Mangudai, as you're running away, are shooting at the knights, and those knights will be healed up by the Chivalry upgrade. Whereas for Beasty, you're guaranteed to hit Mangudai, so you are destroying a lot more value if you are Beasty with those Mangudai and having some cavalry meat shield in front. And those Mangudai are very expensive, so every single Mangudai picked off is a massive loss. If you look at the KD, that's going to be pretty important. 5 kills for Beasty, only 1 lost, 2 kills versus 6 lost for purple. So because of that, the Mangudai numbers are slightly better for Beasty, and he was so far a little more cost efficient. On the right side, everything is peaceful, and you see B is going crazy on the horseman department. Now, that's pretty unconventional. But it could work in this scenario because he's got so much that, supported by Mangadai, this might be enough to snowball a battle. Just look at the amount of horsemen that he's popping out. Not something that you see every day. Usually, with Chinese, you're looking to get to Castle Age as fast as possible, get some Lancers going, but instead, he is going crazy on the horseman numbers. Now, you gotta be careful with this if you are Beasty, because that many horsemen can do a ton of damage, especially if you get the defense upgrade, which he already has. So there is also 2 ranged armor on those horsemen, and that's just a gigantic force of horsemen. Now, obviously the knights, one-on-one, will be able to beat horsemen quite easily, but when they are this heavily outnumbered, it's a completely different scenario. The only thing that you want to do differently here if you're 3D is have the horsemen in front and just make sure they are the ones soaking up the arrow fire, and now you see Garnet trying to intercept the forces of Beasty. Beasty's con is gonna get picked off, and so will the most of the Mangadai, because now it is Beasty's Mangadai that are focusing down the horsemen, and Garnet is able to focus down the horsemen of Beasty here. Couple of horse archers also hitting the field for Sub-Zero, and this is a massive, massive win here for 3D. They're able to push back Beasty's forces. 3D is not necessarily a clan that you have heard a lot about so far, but they just picked up an entire Age of Empires 4 roster, and they are in for blood so far because they are playing really well. And this is one of the strongest teams to match up against in the tournament, Beastyqt, RecoN, and DemusliM. Now, it was mostly knights from RecoN so far, and you see, he feels dissatisfied with the amount of knights he has on the battlefield, so he's going to add 1 more stable to the existing 2 that he has. The good news for Beasty's team is that they already have 3 relics for their Rus player, whereas on the other side, Sub-Zero only has 1, so the relic advantage right now is on the side of the Muslim, but that's a scary amount of horsemen, and if 3DB finds a way into Castle Age, those will turn into veteran horsemen, and they will be even more dangerous. Here come the horsemen, and the knights will just beat the horsemen quite easily. But what happens when you have so many horsemen? You can just dive in, kill a bunch of villagers, you will lose some horsemen, but look at the amounts. The amounts are gigantic, and this is just the perfect way to leverage those Imperial officers supervising the stables. Basically, he is just going full-on crazy mode with all those horsemen, and the knights are taking good fights here. It's just the numbers. It's a never-ending flood of horsemen. And when you're starting to take fights close to the gold mine of RecoN, RecoN will have a hard time reinforcing the knights, and you see, with the horse archers coming in for Sub-Zero, all the knights disappear, and then the horsemen are just a pretty decent meat shield in front of those horse archers. This strategy is really good from 3D, I really love it. Because with this, they're slowly grinding down RecoN's knight numbers, and now RecoN is having a hard time getting access to gold, so RecoN's gonna have a hard time massing knights, whereas if you look at the B, he's still spamming the horsemen like there is no tomorrow. Horsemen now going to try and take a charge on the Muslims' horse archers over here. You still want to accompany your horsemen with some horse archers, but at this point, this is a pretty decent combination of things, and this is where we have to mention one thing, and this is something that hasn't been discussed a lot. Look at the speed on the horsemen. Look at the speed. If I find one that's not getting killed. 1.88 as opposed to knights having 1.62 or horse archers having 1.62. So horsemen can actually catch up with the horse archers, unlike knights. Now, it looks like Beasty's team is going to force this army back now. The biggest problem the horsemen is starting to show. They're just so fragile, and for a feudal age economy, it's a little difficult to spam them endlessly. Beautiful move from Sub-Zero to take that board down, and he's even moving out with Vils to grab all the food. I feel like now B needs to find a way up to Castle Age because he's spamming horsemen, but these are getting more and more ineffective as more knights hit the field, especially with RecoN having the Royal Knights upgraded to veteran now that he's in Castle Age. So now the problem for B is that he needs to get to Castle Age. Looking at his resources, he's very far from there, and I feel like this could backfire badly. The idea was great, and I really loved it. The problem was that they couldn't do enough damage with the horsemen here, and now they're up against a full Castle Age lineup, Mangadai, and most importantly, veteran Royal Knights, and they don't have their own knight counterpart. So, if B gets to Castle Age and gets some Lancers going, they're fine. But if he can't get some Lancers going, they'll be lacking that heavy cavalry component entirely from their army, and that is just a vital component, because that is the one that's supposed to soak up so much arrow fire. Horse Archer numbers seem to be fairly comparable, as we do have only 2 relics for Sub-Zero. For the Muslim, he has at least 3, potentially more, in a monastery. So relic numbers are in the favor of the Muslim right now. That's going to give him an edge over Sub-Zero. Horseman numbers still spectacular, but now you see the Knights swooping in, and those veteran Royal Knights will just smash all the Horsemen in the face. They are way better when it comes to close-up fighting, and you see those Horsemen will stand no chance. The Horsemen need some sort of Horse Archer support or something that delivers a ton of damage to Knights in order to be effective in this type of fight. It looks like he is going to survive for the time being, and his villager count is still right there. Not a lot of damage taken, but if he doesn't find a way to Castle Age, he's in trouble. And the problem is that the only way that he could find a way to Castle Age is by stopping to make Horsemen, but the moment he does that, they will be fighting pretty much 3 versus 2. So this is a tough scenario to be in for 3D. They're definitely playing well, but I feel like this strategy now is starting to backfire because those Castle Age units are slowly grinding down those Feudal Age Horsemen at this point. Mangudai still pursuing, supported by some Horse Archers. Mangudai numbers seem to be fairly comparable at this point, and this is the time where B wants to get to Castle Age. They are the ones counterattacking. You gotta stop making Horsemen, and you gotta get up to Castle Age. We do have one Sacred Site under control of Sub-Zero. The color on the screen is actually wrong. You see at the bottom, Sub-Zero is the one controlling it, and it looks like Beasty pulled his Deer Stones all the way to the middle to help out moving that army across the map. So far, it's a rather even trade on the right side, but I would expect a retreat soon from the team of B, because at this point, they'll be fighting 3 versus 2. Speaking of 3v2, where are the Knights at from Recon? The answer is they're nowhere, because Recon instead is going for the Royal Bloodlines upgrade. And that's where things are getting ugly. Royal Bloodlines is going to give a ton of extra HP to those Knights. They will boost them up to 310 HP, so they are way better than they are before the upgrade. So that is an upgrade that by itself justifies grabbing the Royal Institute instead of the Guild Hall when it comes to team games with the French. And once that upgrade comes in, Recon's forces are going to be difficult to stop, even if B gets into Castle Age and gets some Lancers out, because by far the best heavy cavalry will belong to Recon on the map. Mangudai numbers steadily increasing over here, with Recon also getting some more Knights out on the field. Fairly sizable force of Horse Archers for Sub-Zero, and he's got some Mangonels as well to support. When it comes to HP, we don't have the HP upgrade just yet for Sub-Zero, and for our yellow player, the Muslim, he already has the upgrade, so his Horse Archers are right now better than the ones of Sub-Zero. Beasty is going to take down that boar carcass over there, so that's going to help him gain some more bounty, and this is what pushes the Muslim to that 500 level bounty. Here come the Mangudai though, and they will just charge in. There is no point to run here for the Muslim, because if he runs, he can't shoot back. Instead, he needs to stand and fight, trade off his Horse Archers to Mangudai, because Mangudai are just so expensive. Mangonels are coming in here to support though, getting some rocks on the battlefield. Horsemen coming with a surround as well, but those Knights are just so tanky at this point. 300 HP out there. Mangonels will help grinding down that ton of HP, and with the second Mangonel setting up, it looks like 3D is edging out a victory here. Not enough Knights on the battlefield, it seems. B still in Feudal Age, just spamming Horsemen like there is no tomorrow. But the Horse Archer numbers are now better for Sub-Zero, and they're forcing back those Mangudai as well. And now, you can use the Mangudai of Garnath to try and pursue all of those Mangudai from Beasty. Beautiful fight there for 3D. And once again, I think they take a lead. B still desperately needs to get up to Castle Age, but it is just very difficult to get to because he needs to give up on army production at this point. But if there's any time to do it, it is right now. They're not being threatened. It's unlikely that they can finish the game with him making any more army. So probably the most reasonable thing to do is stop making army and go into Castle Age. Because unless you're able to finish this game in the next 3 minutes, you just don't want to go for Horseman. Because the only way that you want to get any kind of return value for it is by finishing the game in 3 minutes. If you don't do that, might as well go into Castle Age. Looks like the Deer Stones is retreating, and it's being intercepted by Sub-Zero's Horse Archers. I think the Deer Stones will be able to get away for the time being. Some of the reinforcements from Garnath were intercepted here. On the right side, it looks like the Muslim is regrouping. He's currently sitting on 3 relics inside that Abbey. That's all that he has. Other side has 3 relics as well in the Abbey. So it looks like We have a tiny lead for Sub-Zero because he also has a monastery with 1 relic, so it's now 4 versus 3, but rather even relic counts, as even as it could possibly be in a team game. There's 1 more relic up north that is unclaimed, by the way. Looks like on the left side, we do have some trade going. Ooh, we haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about that. There's a market for Garnath, and he's using the OVU and the double training of the traders to get some trade going. The response from Beasty will be to tower this neutral market, so there is a trade-off here for Garnath, because if he's getting those trade cards denied, he's going to lose a bunch of resources on those, but they will return so much gold that even if they complete 1 successful trip, they will pay for their price. Mangadai now in good numbers. In the middle, we have a bit of a clash of armies. So far, the horse archers decided not to engage each other. We still in Feudal Age. Any sign of him going up the castle? Looks like not. I'm a little disappointed because I feel like 3D would be in a much better position if B just stopped making horsemen and went to Castle Age. Oftentimes you feel like you just gotta spam those units and just overpower your opponent, but I feel like that window is slowly closing simply because even with all these raids going down, 1 or 2 villagers getting picked off, you're just losing so much army value at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, we have no Song Dynasty either for B, so it's not like his villager production is that much faster either. In the middle though, we have a gigantic army for Sub-Zero. That is no less than 71 horse archers. Holy potatoes. That is just brutal. We also have some horsemen over here, but these guys are sort of just meat shield, the low tier units at this point. If they were Castle Age units, they would be a lot more scary and a lot more impactful. Response is going to be 40 Mangadai right now, led by the mighty Khan in front of the army. And where are the Mangadai at? For Garnath, looks like they're out of position. Mangonels setting up on top of the hill though, and this is gonna be a big fight coming in. Knights charging in 300 HP on each of those knights. Mangonels though raining down death and destruction. Down below, Mangadai are going to try and jump on those Mangonels. Knights also coming in here from Beasty, supported by some Mangadai. Look at this absolute insanity. The horse archers are trying to prevent the Mangonels from being destroyed by the Lancers, and so far they're doing a nice job. Mangonels though focusing down mostly the Mangadai. Mangadai, buffed by the speed network, will have a ton of mobility over here, and I feel like this fight is being won by 3D over here. The Mangonel support is just too much to handle. So much firepower coming out of those Mangonels before they go down, and while the Royal Knights soaked up a ton of arrow fire, ultimately this hill position was very well defendable. Of course, tower fire helping as well, and it looks like Beasty's team is gonna get forced back. Absolutely crazy of a fight, and now the Mangadai can be sent in to pursue. Beasty tried to switch into Lancers, and now he turns back to fight this one, but obviously the Mangadai is the power unit for the Mongols on the battlefield, I do believe. In the middle we have the horse archers trading off against each other. I think we have slightly better upgrades for the Muslim. He's got 1 extra defense, and the attack is the same, so slightly better upgrades for the Muslim right now, but here come the Mangadai, and they will just force those yellow horse archers back all the way into the base of the Muslim. Ton of fighting going on now, and we still Feudal Age. I feel like if he got up to Castle Age, and he could have done that, because really those horse archers are contributing very, very minimal to this fight. I think if he got up to Castle Age, they would be winning this game already. Looks like the trade cards are no longer operational with that tower up, so that's not going to be a factor anytime soon. Instead, do I see another neutral market, or just a market from B being utilized over here? Indeed, that's the case. The trade cards will be giving quite a lot of gold income for Garnet, so that's something to consider at this point. Also, with those towers coming up, you're going to have a pretty decent speed on those traders as well, thanks to the Yam speed network. So, in the long run, that trade boom is going to pay off for Garnath. Be still not collecting a single bit of gold, so he's still very far away from going up to Castle Age. He's resilient. Let's give him that. He believes in his strategy. 5 stables of horseman production. I just don't understand what's the concept here. The horsemen die so easily that you could have 100 of them on the battlefield, they still wouldn't be able to do more than 15 knights in Castle Age from Recon with 300 HP. So, I feel like, if you just think about it, every single stable is consuming 100 food every 22 seconds. If you just stop production for, what, a minute, you could get yourself Castle Agent. Finally, B is grabbing Castle. This could be a difference maker. Because despite the fact that his Lancers will still be weaker than Knights of Recon, he could have way better numbers. So once he gets to Castle Age, he needs to switch into Knights, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Looking at the middle, fairly sizable force of Horse Archers right now. For Sub-Zero, Horsemen retreating for B for the time being. And it looks like we have a bit of a stalemate here, because as things stand, neither of the sides are really willing to push. Some traders already going for Garneth, and that's going to help a tiny bit with gold income. For your reference, those trade cards, if I find one, carry 158 gold each. So they're pretty effective, especially in the long run. That's going to be a nice trickle of gold for Garneth. Looks like the Deer Stones of Garneth is quite a bit exposed over here to Beasties, Mangudai, and Lancers. So Purple probably wants to pull this one back, although at this point they could jump Beastie's army. Look at this size difference of these armies. Just a gigantic force of Horse Archers, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Mangonel getting a shot in, and Beastie will retreat. On the right side, though, looks like the Muslim is repositioning his Horse Archers, and they're going for B now. Why is Purple called Garnet? Because that's the name he's signed up with. Not sure why he's using Mr. Gogol's name here. He renamed himself a tiny bit, but according to Wikipedia, he is known as Garneth on his main account. On the right side, we do have some horsemen coming in, and you gotta give credit to B for using those horsemen quite effectively. He's got some scouts nearby, he's got some horsemen raiding, and he's doing a lot with little. And it's something that I really admire when it comes to the gameplay of B here. Those horsemen shouldn't be able to do that much, yet they're still accomplishing quite a bit here, acting as a mute shield and doing quite a bit of a raiding damage. Now it looks like we have Sub-Zero and our purple player Garnet pushing up as well. There's a tower here for Beastie that's going to slow down their advance a tiny bit, but as you see, Sub-Zero is already capping that sacred site. We have B coming in though with the Imperial Palace, which means that we're getting Yuan Dynasty and Fire Lancers. So I feel like we're getting close to the stage where Chinese will be a very dangerous civilization with the Fire Lancers. There's still a bit of a window here for Beastie's team to close this game out, but I feel like with the free sacred sites under the control of Sub-Zero, with these scouts being annoying and burning down hunting cabins, and most importantly, with the Fire Lancers getting closer and closer, I feel like the window is closing for Beastie and the Strelbora, but that is a massive group of scouts and horse archers, if I've ever seen one. 59 horse archers, 9 warrior monks, supported by 15 scouts and a single Mangonel. Look at this gigantic fight over here. Mangonel setting up on both sides. Beastie's got more Mangonels though, and it looks like Sub-Zero's Mangonels were caught in the crossfire in the middle of the map. Those horsemen are not doing that much just yet, and it looks like the Mangudai got flanked by the heavy cavalry. Still no heavy cavalry component for the team of B. And at this point, no Fire Lancers on the battlefield, full retreat for 3D. With all those Mangonels crawling up and the heavy cavalry just soaking up so much arrow fire, they were able to deliver some big blows on those Mangudai as well. Mangudai numbers are just no longer there. Horse Archers still retreating in an orderly fashion as we see some Lancers being mixed in by Garnet, trying to repel this attack. Still 4 Mangonels on the battlefield, and that's going to help quite a bit when it comes to cleaning up those Horse Archers. Fire Lancers need to come in now to help out, because as things stand, the momentum seems to be much greater for the Muslims team. Really, those 4 Mangonels are helping out immensely. Just look at the amount of firepower that they are delivering, taking down so many Mangudai, and right now Garnet's forces are just completely non-existent. Barely any Lancers out on the field for him, and when it comes to Horse Archer numbers, that seems to be rather even. The Muslim also mixed in quite a lot of scouts to absorb the arrow fire, and that helped a lot, swinging this battle in their favor. Any Fire Lancers coming in? That's the main question. Here come the Fire Lancers. That must be the saving grace for 3D, and that's exactly what we're seeing. The Fire Lancers are charging in, jumping on those Mangonels. Fire Lancers are fairly fragile, so the Horse Archers will be able to grind down their numbers. But there goes 2 Mangonels, there goes a third one. Fire Lancers still dying though, and 2 Mangonels have enough firepower to clean up most of those Horse Archers. Now, this fight is definitely better for the Muslim side, and there is just no more Fire Lancers coming in here. The reinforcements are getting intercepted, and we still have 4 Mangonels over here for Beastie getting into the base of Garnet, and now they are just torching down buildings, idling a ton of villagers. And the heavy cavalry is helping a lot here as well for the Muslims team. Recon, with the knights having 300 HP, help a ton when it comes to absorbing arrow fire. And of course, the mangonels of Beasty, now they're taking down the town center. So much idle time is forced on the economy of Garnath. Fire Lancers, though, still a powerful unit, and I feel like at this point, we could get to the stage where Garnath is sacrificed for the greater cause. He has 55 idols at this point. His eco is gonna get destroyed. If you're Garnath, you run to the corner. You run away, make sure that you survive, and what you want to do is have B, with the Fire Lancers, try and snipe some landmarks. Do you have enough here for B? That's the question. I think he could have waited a tiny bit more, because if he has 10 more Fire Lancers here, he can destroy all of those landmarks very fast. The Muslim is realizing what's going on, that this is trying to be a Fire Lancer snipe. This is why I said that you can sacrifice your purple player, because what you're building on now is knocking out the Muslim, who is by far the strongest player right now in terms of army. And you see, the Muslim knows exactly that he needs to pull everything he has to save that landmark. Horse archers coming in from Sub-Zero as well, to try and clean up the forces that are meant to destroy the Fire Lancers. The town center is destroyed. The Abbey is destroyed. Here comes the Golden Gate. Can B snipe that Golden Gate? The Fire Lancers are being absolutely smacked in the face by all those Horse Archers, and you see Recon is body blocking the Fire Lancers with his Knights. I don't think that B has enough to take down that final Golden Gate out here. And with that, I feel like Beasty's team is very close to winning. Beautiful move from the Muslim to try and repair those landmarks as soon as possible. They know exactly that Garnath is pretty much dead at this point. His base is getting absolutely destroyed. So it comes down to making sure that you don't lose one of your players to a Fire Lancer snipe. This is why I said that I think waiting 20 more seconds, just 10 more Fire Lancers would have helped so much for B. Because with such an army, he could have sniped all the landmarks before the reinforcements come in. Now, his opponents know what's coming up, and they know exactly that they just need to keep their knights over here. That is, by the way, 29 knights with 300 HP apiece. Some of them being horsemen, but most of them are knights. Also, defensive castle coming in here for Recon to try and help his teammate. B is going to try and snap the landmark once again, but by the time he comes in, the other landmarks will be rebuilt. The Muslim is still on the back foot, but so is Garnath. You see his starting base is absolutely destroyed, and now Beasty is sending in Lancers into the base of Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero's got nothing back at home, and he's up against so many Lancers, so many veteran Royal Knights. His eco is going to collapse. Purple is at 31 population, and if you look at Sub-Zero, he's also going to drop. Sub-Zero is at 9 villagers at this point. It was an all or nothing on that landmark snipe, and I think the only reason why they're not tapping out is because they still believe in B. There is technically a 0.01% chance of B sniping the landmarks of the Muslim, making it a 1 versus 2 pretty much, and then going in and sniping the landmarks of one other player to make it a 1v1. But as I said, it's like a 0.01% chance. I feel like Sub-Zero is going to get defeated faster than B can snipe any landmarks. And there is just such a big army here. You're talking about like 100 horse archers for the Muslim. Yeah, 91 are the numbers, and quite a lot of heavy cavalry as well for Recon. That Fire Lancer snipe almost worked. It needed like 10 more Fire Lancers to take the buildings down a little faster, but now 3D is pretty much dead at this point. Wars are coming up as well. You see, Recon knows exactly that they just need to hold this one because they are definitely ahead. So they are going to start stonewalling. At this point, Garnath is down to 30 population, and Sub-Zero is down to 57, being 0 villagers. He's automatically eliminated pretty much. He can't even rebuild his town center. So unless your teammates can repair your own landmarks, which I'm not sure about, he has no ways to rebuild his own landmarks at this point. Soon, his population will be Sub-Zero. On the right side, you see Muslim expanding beyond the boundaries of those walls, but the army numbers are just brutal here. 82 horse archers for the Muslim. On the left side, you see Garnath is getting absolutely cleaned up, so I think that might be his last landmark, in fact, so there's a chance Garnath is gonna get eliminated here in the next couple of seconds, and I would expect something very similar to Sub-Zero. There is nothing that really prevents Beasty from running in, taking down the 2 landmarks, and knocking out that player completely from the game, and I think that's the same thing that's gonna happen. The town center is destroyed here. It's freaking out a tiny bit. And Garnath, currently at 18 population, 17 villagers. Town center goes down, and with that, Garnath is out. Sub-Zero, still alive a tiny bit, but I mean, look at this. I'm not exactly sure what they're hoping for now, because you could still try to snipe landmarks if you're B, but the question is, are you gonna snipe them fast enough to stop this? Just look at this screen for a brief moment. We're looking at about 90 horse archers supported by 30 lancers from the Mongols, about 20 units of heavy cavalry from the French. Some horse archers are still here for Sub-Zero, who could be eliminated any moment, by the way, by losing those landmarks, but really, at this point, it's just a brute force push by Beasty's team. It's difficult to say where this slipped for B's team, but I think B spent a little too much time in Feudal Age. Because those resources that he spent on horsemen could have been turned into fire lancers a tiny bit faster, and they just needed those fire lancers to be out a little faster. And then the fight that was taken up north also influenced things quite heavily. We do have some desperate moves with a couple of fire lancers to try and raiding, but ultimately, as I said, B is going to get defeated faster than he's going to be able to snap landmarks. B is at 73 population, and as things stand, it looks like Beasty's team will have to defeat their opponents entirely to win the game, because Freedy is not resigning yet. Clock Tower is going down, the town centers are going down. I think B is out as well, if I'm not mistaken. Indeed he is. So Sub-Zero is the only player yet to resign, which he does right now. Good play from both teams, and I really feel like Freedy has shown that they are an extremely powerful team. So this game, I don't think they have to be very disappointed about this one, because small decisions going differently could have made this game happen for them, I do believe. If they went for a slightly faster Castle Age and Fire Lancers a tiny bit earlier, this could have been a completely different game. We will take a look at the statistics in a matter of seconds. As I mentioned before, this was from recorded games, so we'll have to go back and take a look at the statistics. But here it is. So let's take a look at the stats. Villager count graphs. You see, it was pretty close for a long time. The biggest problem, I believe, was Sub-Zero having these swings. These swings are not something that you can really afford. The first one maybe, but the second one wasn't really something that they needed. They needed a castle age around this area instead of going for more and more horsemen for a long time, because those horsemen were just not impacting the battle the way they intended them to have. So that was probably the biggest difference when it comes to economy and military. You can take a look at that quite nicely. 29,000 gold for Beasty, by the way. I just want to highlight that real quickly. 23k for Recon. Sub-Zero wasn't really gathering a ton of gold. Neither was B. B only 7,000 in the bank, but 37,000 food out there. With that being said, we are jumping into game number 2. Once again, we are behind compared to the players on this set, and that is because we wanted to watch the entire set instead of just jumping into the actual game that was going on. We were starting later than the set has started because the previous set took some time, but it is what it is. We're jumping into game number 2, which will be on the home map of the team 3D. My game has crashed, so there is gonna be a couple more seconds of waiting until we are jumping game number 2. Alright, game number 2 coming up, and the map is going to be Danube River. Oh boy, oh boy. So looking at the civilizations real quickly, we do have Delhi, Holy Roman Empire and Chinese for Recon's team, Delhi, French, Holy Roman Empire for B's team. I really feel like Chinese on Danube River is very underappreciated. If you don't pick it on Arabia, which is very likely, and you go to Danube River as the second game, Chinese makes a lot of sense over there. Of course, it depends on what the third game is going to be, because if you fear that it's going to be Hillandia, you want that. Alright, if all goes well, we can jump into game number 2 from recorded games. The game is loading up right now, and 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 2 in this best of 3, in between Recon, the Muslim, and Beastyqt versus B, Garnet, and Sub-Zero. It is 3D versus Beastie and the Strelbora, one of the most creative names of the entire tournament. On the left side of the map, we are going to have Garnet playing as the French pocket in teal. The flank is going to be Sub-Zero playing as the green Holy Roman Empire. And on the other flank, which actually is more like a super pocket, being shielded from the left side by two teammates, is going to be B playing as a Delhi in purple. Other side, we have a quite exposed the Muslim over here playing as the super pocket in yellow as the Holy Roman Empire. The flank is going to be a Chinese Beastie in red. And last but not least, you're going to have Recon playing as the Delhi in between his two teammates in blue. The map is Danube River, so expect players to start walking towards the river quite fast. Looks like we have a scout moving forward from Beastie. At this point, Doc is already coming up for him. Another scout coming up for Recon. So there's a chance that they will try to put some pressure on the villagers building the docks. That's something that you see players do, especially if you go for multiple scouts. You can add the second scout, team it up with your teammate scouts, and try to deny docks from the opponent. As you see, two wolves will be picked off by B here, and now he's moving up with his own scouts as well. Looks like when it comes to docking, we are going to have one for Recon. We're going to have one for Beastie. And on the other side, I do not see any docks right now. First one is just now coming up for B, coming in with a couple of fishing ships. But no dock as it seems from Sub-Zero with the HRE. And it seems like there is also no dock coming in for Garnet. Bo's coming in already for Recon, so that's going to prevent any kind of land aggression from happening. Of course, you still have to be considerate about the fact that towers can be placed behind your docks, so you have to be careful with that. Docks are up for all three players of Recon's team, whereas only one player is docking so far from 3D, so it's a little concerning for them, I do believe, simply because having that fishing working for you, even in Dark Age, is just such a massive boost to your economy. As things stand, it looks like we're going to have a mill out for Sub-Zero, so this is intentional, and they probably want to go very aggressive in Feudal Age, because if they don't, there is no way that they can compensate for a lack of fishing economy, so they probably have to push those fishing ships very fast here. Maybe with some Feudal Age towers, I can see that being a thing. Do they have Abbasids? They don't, so they don't have the chance to go for early Feudal Age siege or something like that. Right now, it's 3 docks for the Muslims team, only one for 3D. I kind of dislike the way that you only have one player going for fishing, simply because that's just such a gigantic amount of food income. For the Holy Roman Empire, you can compensate for it with the Prelate, as you see over here. On the hunt are the villagers, and the Prelate is going to inspire them. But for the French, it's a little surprising that we're not seeing a single fishing ship, especially because Hawks will be able to protect them very, very easily. In fact, we're seeing a dock coming in right now. I would expect this to be like a standard Hawk play from Garnet, but I think if you go Hawks, you might as well go for a couple of fishing ships. Looking at the fishing eco of Beastie, you see he already has 5 fishing ships out for him. You have 3 working for Recon, and in the pocket, you do have 4 for the Muslim. As things stand, he has the Prelate working for him, and he also has the fishing ships working, so his eco is still more powerful than Sub-Zero's one, and if you look at the food economies, that is obvious. Beastie, the Muslim, and Recon all at the 300 domain with their fishing eco, as well as B with the fish. Sub-Zero and Garnet have a way lower food income, so you can see the difference caused by the lack of fishing eco. Coming in with a tower is going to be Recon. I think it's going to be a preemptive tower behind the dock of Beastie, and that would be a clever strategy to do. Or is that a sneaky vill? Could be a sneaky villager with the forward dock or something cheesy like that by Recon. He's got the Delhi working for him. What's the idea? The villager is sneaking forward, and there's 2 wolves out here. Oh, this could be a disaster for Recon. Oh boy, 2 wolves is a little too much to handle for a lady. You can handle 1 with a villager, but I think 2 is enough to kill a vill, so this isn't gonna work out for Recon, and there is very little ways for him to save that villager. Even if the scout comes in, it takes so much time to kill those wolves. I think this lady is dead. This lady seems like she's just gonna die. You see, Recon turned back and he's like, okay, I can't find this one. And ultimately is like, okay, turn back, shoot. He damaged both of those wolves, but the lady is going to die, so we will never know what she was meant to do. Maybe it was some sort of sneaky forward archery range and then go into elephant-style cheese from the Delhi player. Only now is Feudal Age coming in for Recon, so he has been delaying that for quite a time. Meanwhile, Barbican of the Sun coming in here for Beasty right next to his dog. That's going to help protecting them a tiny bit. On the water, we have some fishing eco now for Garnet, so he delayed it quite a bit. Really unsure why, because he could have gone for fishing a lot faster. Looks like the Muslims' fishing eco is completely untouched right now, so is the one for Recon, and their food eco is just light years better than the one from their opponents. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sub-Zero, he is going for double stables. He is coming in with a couple of scouts, probably to ferry in some deer. He also has some sheep coming in, and I guess the idea is that you want to go for professional scouts, ferry in the deer, and then go for fast castle Regnitz Cathedral and try to compensate for lack of fishing economy that way. As things stand, Wolves are still standing here for Recon, and there is just minimal fighting going on. In fact, there is only one unit lost in this entire game that belongs to Recon, and that's a dead villager killed by the Wolves. So not a single kill by either of these players. And that's going to benefit the players that do have the fishing eco, because they already have a gigantic lead when it comes to economy. Just look at this, 770 food per minute for the Muslim. Compare that to what B has, what Sub-Zero has. That is a massive discrepancy already in the economies. Not a single ship coming out. Still no Hawks from Garnet. B is still in Dark Age, by the way, which is a little surprising as well. He's just now going up with the Dome of Faith. Overall, a lot of weird things that are happening in this game. Very, very passive. And we also have some quite heavily delayed Feudal Ages here. You see, B already had one mosque here working for him, so that probably delayed his Feudal Age a tiny bit. And it's not the end of the world that he's delaying it because he's not getting pushed. But still, it's a little weird that we're seeing like a 7.5 minutes Feudal Age from him. Meanwhile, for Recon, he's already getting some Spearmen out. If he goes up with the compound of the Defender, he can get some Stone Walls going. And one thing that we have seen more and more in this tournament is villagers moving forward, or even Spearmen for the Delhi, if they're in Castle Age with the compound of the Defender, getting some Stone Wall towers up to deny the fish. And that works very nicely, and it's difficult to destroy those Stone Wall towers. No Castle Age just yet for either of the players. We do have Beasty, though, in Song Dynasty. He's only on one town center for a time being, but he's mining stone, so a second town center is not impossible in the near future. And supported by some fishing eco, that's going to be a very nice double boom for Beasty. Meanwhile, multiple barracks coming in here for Recon. It looks like the barracks are not being supervised just yet by a scholar. In fact, efficient production is going to be preceded by Sanctity. And honestly, seeing how Recon's team is playing with the Fort Voyager walling these crossings off, it's very possible that they will try to go for the sacred sites, and especially Sanctity being prioritized over efficient production could be a sign that they want to start capping those sacred sites, seeing how passive their opponents play. And Sub-Zero is playing mass scouts. What on the earth is this? He didn't have professional scouts. He didn't have professional scouts, and he has 21 scouts on the field. Why? Why are we seeing this from Sub-Zero? Do they really feel like they have no chance, that they're doing something very, very crazy, or what? The scouts are cheap, and I understand that, but that's the only positive I can tell you about this one. Oh boy. This feels like a disaster. If these were horsemen even, I would say you can kill some villagers with, and honestly, you can try burning down docks, but I just feel like scouts, especially this late, is just very underwhelming. Vololo attempt coming in here by the Muslim to scare away the scouts. It's a clever move. And with that Vololo attempt, you could scare away, but did you see that? Did you see what Beasty had to suffer from? The scouts had to disengage because of the Vololo attempt, so what B did was keep the sheep on the wall. And by keeping the sheep over there, he delayed those walls. Beasty's walls are still open, and here come the scouts. Oh boy. Now, that's quite a lot of scouts, and they can try sniping landmarks, but you see, Recon already has some spearmen out, so I struggle to see how these spearmen will win the game for Sub-Zero's team, especially given the fact that they have completely given up on water. What is the plan here? I'm really curious now. Sacred Site in the middle being captured by Recon, so clock is ticking for Sub-Zero's team. No player from his team in Castle-DemusliM, however, has already reached Castle. And is the idea to snipe the docks? Seems like it, because they're not heading towards the town centers of the opponent. The problem with this strategy is that this is too late. By the time you snipe these docks, your opponent has gotten so much out of the fishing eco, and if you want to take down the Barbican of the Sun, you see, these scouts aren't particularly effective when it comes to sniping buildings. You already see some knights coming out from the Muslim. If you had these scouts 3 minutes into the game, I would say, okay, it's a fairly sizable force, but scouts are just so fragile when it comes to fighting against spearmen, when it comes to fighting against knights. Landmark snipes like this isn't gonna work. These are not fire lancers. Oh boy. I think they massively overestimated the capabilities of those scouts. Not even a single landmark is gonna go down, and the second wave of scouts comes in for Garneth. What was the concept here? I can't really tell if they're memeing or they're taking this seriously. Because to me, it really feels like this is a meme game, trying to go full scout rushes. Villagers even being pulled. I have no idea what's going on here. And I have no idea what's the motivation of 3D behind this one, because I can tell you something. In game number 1, they were very competitive. Why? Why would they do this? Do they think their civilizations aren't good enough? Do they feel like Chinese with the Fire Lancers are so dangerous? I still feel like playing Standard gives them such a much better opportunity. They had the French. They could have had Hawks on the water, killing the fishing eco, and it's very difficult to stop in Feudal Age. And now you just turn this into a full cheese, fast scouts attempt. I mean, look at this. Absolute disaster. This wouldn't even work with this many Fire Lancers, let alone scouts. Come on, it was like 25 scouts. Even 25 Fire Lancers wouldn't be enough to win you the game against that many spearmen and this much of defense. Oh boy. I mean, at this point, I feel like Beastyst's team is knowing that, okay, this is just full cheese. By the way, in the middle, we have Recon coming in. It's 4 scouts. There's no way they're taking this seriously. There's absolutely no way. Oh boy. Well, it is what it is. I'm just a little disappointed in 3D simply because I thought they have a very good chance of upsetting the Muslims team. Just think about it. Game number 1, it was a close game. Some decisions being made differently could have actually resulted in a victory for them. And you see, we even have Sub-Zero walling this crossing off to prevent the rewalling from Beastyst's team. But this is an absolute disaster, just a big wave of scouts. I can't believe that they don't believe in themselves. Because to me it really feels like they didn't believe that they can win this game playing Standard. Look at that, the spearmen are just slaughtering all of those scouts. It's just an absolute slaughter. Look at this traffic jam, it's painful to look at. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is one of those games where you could have a great clickbait video of saying full scout rush in a team game, but when you look at the result, it is just disappointing. And I mean, at this point, Beastyst's team has to know that they are leading in this game in a very decisive fashion. Barely any scouts make it through. They don't even get through that gate, and now Recon is going to play with some stone walls. Garneth gives up. I'm a little surprised that 3D didn't believe that they have a chance playing Standard, because to me it really felt like they just YOLO'd this one with 4 scouts, but this strategy should never work. You can't even eliminate one player with that many scouts. Maybe if they went all scouts right from the beginning, but even then it's difficult. Honestly, if they wanted to go for like a 4 scout rush like this one, I think it would have been better to go fishing, because even if they lose the fishing eco, they at least would have gotten a ton of food from there. So there could have been so many options. I feel like one of the best things that they could have done if they really wanted to go for the full scout rush, then what you have to do is go fishing and then have all 3 of your players go full scouts in Dark Age. Well, you can't really do that with... oh yeah, they don't have Mongols and Rus. This could have been way better if they had Mongols and Rus, because then they had 2 players that could just go full scouts. Especially Rus with the hunting cabins, that could have been intriguing, but even then, go fishing, fast feudal, and just spam scouts all day, all night. Such a weird and crazy game here, and with that, Beastyqt and the Strelbora, the Muslim, Beasty and Recon march into the quarterfinals in a 2-0 fashion. I feel like 3D didn't believe in themselves for the second game. They played a very good first game. In fact, I feel like a couple of things going differently would have won them the game. In fact, a faster Feudal Age from B could have been enough, I think. But anyways, with that, Beasty and the Strelbora move into the top 8. One of the strongest teams of competition, Beasty, Recon, and the Muslim. It's going to be an absolute eye candy to watch them in the quarterfinals.